Welcome to the Car Guys, and this week a modern Porsche 911 that I crave perhaps more so than any other. The 991.2 GT2 RS, a turbocharged rear-wheel drive menace to society that dispatches 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds and is just about the best looking GT car of all time. And this particular car has a spec to die for. Now, I've never driven a GT2 RS, and if I'm going to stump up the near £350,000 asking price, it's probably something I should rectify right now. So join me for a full review of this magnificent beast, the interior, exterior features, history, performance, and of course, what it's like to drive. Oh my God! In other words, folks, it's another episode of the Car Guys. This is the Porsche 911 991.2 GT2 RS. And when it was first shown to the public at the Goodwood Festival of Speed in 2017, it was the fastest and most powerful 911 of all time, and the ultimate expression of Ferdinand Porsche's original 1963 creation. This incredible machine can do 0 to 60 in just 2.7 seconds thanks to ridiculous levels of traction and a 700 brake horsepower twin-turbo flat-six engine. It also looks completely, properly, outrageously pumped up. It's Lou Ferrigno, it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, it's season 2 of Reacher. The carbon-fixed scaffold wing, bonnet and hood ducts, wing vents, bulging curves, the gaping mouth, wide wheel arches. It's a brutalist symphony of Wagner and Metallica, and frankly, it's stunning. And the GT2 RS has also got the minerals where it counts, because on the 20th of September 2017, it delivered a world record Nürburgring time of 6 minutes 47.3 seconds, adding credibility to Porsche's claims of ultimate track prowess. And while this is a very special car, also don't forget the 2018 GT2 RS Club Sport, a limited 200 car special edition track only version for Club Sport events and selected track days. It weighed just 1,390 kilograms and featured the same wheel and digital dashboard as the Porsche GT3 R race cars. Or how about this? The 2018 935 Special Edition, a direct and accurate looking tribute to the historic Moby Dick 935s of the 70s. This beautiful track special weighed 90 kilograms less than the Road GT2 RS, but with the same 700 brake horsepower 3.8 litre power plant. I actually applied to get one of these cars and didn't get one. What a surprise. But don't worry, Porsche insisted that they would only go to owners with proven motorsport pedigrees. And now for a spot of Porsche GT2 history. And the consistent recipe for this particular 911 is a powerful turbocharged engine, track-bred suspension and brakes, and rear-wheel drive only, just to make things a bit spicy. The 911 GT2 first appeared in the Porsche range in 1995 with the 993 generation, commonly called GT2, but actually badged simply GT. You may recall we drove one on this channel, and here it is. Porsche then added the fully badged GT2 to the 996 range in the year 2000, where it quickly garnered a Widowmaker status thanks to a combination of greater 456 brake horsepower turbo power and rear-wheel drive only compared to the four-wheel drive capability of the turbo. Then in 2007, for the 997 911, Porsche added the standard GT2, which to be honest everyone seems to have overlooked. And in 2010, the Porsche 997 range got the brand new variant, the twin-turbo 493 brake horsepower GT2 RS. Now this is really special, and it's easily distinguishable, as you can see here, by its carbon fibre bonnet or hood and familiar down-angled rear wing. Porsche aficionados would have to skip a generation until the 991.2 in 2017 to get the GT2 RS that you see before you. What is widely acknowledged as being one of the greatest 911s ever made. When will we see the 992 GT2 RS? Well, given the pattern in recent history, it won't be until the second generation of the 992, which has just been announced for the main range, so perhaps we won't see the GT2 RS until 2025. Just look at how aggressive and purposeful this Weissach-equipped car is. It's like some monstrous insect that's about to take flight and suck your blood. In terms of the bodywork, you'd expect something like the flagship GT2 RS to be made from space-age materials, not just steel. And you'd be right. The front wings, wheel vents, outer shells on the sport design exterior mirrors, air intakes on the rear side sections and parts of the rear end are made from carbon fibre reinforced plastic, as are many of the interior components. The bonnet is also made from carbon to make the vehicle as lightweight as possible, while the standard trim roof is made from magnesium. The front and rear windscreen are made from lightweight glass, as light as plastic, but scratch and crack resistant. And look at this, 2 brake cooling Nacker ducts, just like the Ferrari F40. They're located on the bonnet or hood, and this is the first time they've ever been found on a Porsche. Also look at these louvres on the front wings in fetching carbon fibre. You may recognise them from the MSO McLaren 675 LTs, and they ventilate the front wheel wells and reduce pressure and suppress lift. This is a wing, ladies and gentlemen, and as you can no doubt tell, it's a piece of scaffolding made of aluminium and carbon fibre. And at the car's top speed of 211 miles an hour, this bad boy generates 340 kilograms of downforce, and you can manually adjust it for maximum downforce setting that gives you 450 kilograms. Those are serious numbers, and they help make the GT2 RS feel glued to the road. And this wing was a real feature and statement of this car. No one had really seen anything like it before outside of a full-on race car. Of course, now the 992 GT3 RS, this is old news. It's bigger and even more outlandish, but back when this car was launched, this was the daddy. The large wheels and tyres, the widest fitted to a 911 at the time, provide incredible grip, measuring 265/35 20s at the front and 325/30 21s at the rear. Porsche ceramic composite brakes, PCCBs, were standard and feature fixed 6-piston aluminium monoblock calipers at the front and 4-piston calipers at the rear. Porsche offered the Weissach pack as an option, which saved 18 kilograms and consisted of multiple components made of carbon fibre like the roof, the sway bars and the rod ends. Magnesium wheels were included, reducing weight as well as unsprung mass. As you would expect with a track-focused 911, the GT2 RS has a race-bred chassis, fewer rubber bushings, and all the suspension joints are replaced by steel ball joints, which increase overall stiffness, but as a result, you feel more directly connected to the road surface. The suspension is McPherson struts at the front and lateral control arms with multi-link rear suspension on the rear, and owners could option a front axle lift system, which this car has, and it is highly recommended. Dynamic engine mounts, the scourge of modern 911s, help to keep the stiffness in check during hard cornering and hard acceleration, but if my GT3 Touring is anything to go by, they'll probably go wrong all the time and cost you about £1,000 each. Since this is a state-of-the-art racing Porsche, the GT2 RS is riddled with aids, such as the Adaptive Dynamic System, PASM, to improve stability in conjunction with rear-wheel steering. And in this case, it's specifically tuned for the GT2 RS. You get the Porsche Stability Management, PSM, which works in conjunction with the rear limited slip differential, PTV+, and that uses targeted brake interventions to help keep you on the road. As you can see then, the GT2 RS is a mean-looking mother. I personally think that the silver works perfectly on this. Normally I think that would be a bit boring for a 911, but because there's so much dark gloss carbon, the silver offsets it perfectly. I don't know about you, but whenever I see that amount of dark carbon and then a bright colour, it just looks a little bit too Hot Wheels for me. That yellow, that red, that blue, no. Doesn't work as well. I think if you're going to have one of these, you have it in black and then it looks properly mean. But actually I think this is perfect. I love the louvres. I love the fact that the roof has got these slabs of carbon on it. But overall, the shape of the GT2 RS is just so mean and muscular and special. There it is, it's special. This, to me, is the ultimate 991.2 911. It is the only car that I would consider chopping my GT3 Touring in for. This is the only one that tops it. And now, folks, let's have a look at this incredibly impressive engine. Yeah, you can't see any of it at all. Nothing. And it's such a shame that you can't actually see it, because what we have here is a monstrous 700 brake horsepower, 3.8 litre flat six, taken from the Turbo S, only with enlarged twin turbochargers. They're running at 1.55 bar and they rev to 7,200 RPM. 0 to 60 comes in a race suit soiling 2.7 seconds with 124 miles an hour dispatched in 8.3 seconds and a top speed of 211 miles an hour. That's 340 kilometers an hour. Any way you slice it, that's as quick as lightning. Peak torque is 553 foot-pounds, which is 750 newton meters, and the whole car weighs 1,470 kilograms. So it's not a featherweight, but it's no bloater either. All that power is forced to the road using a customised GT 7-speed double-clutch gearbox. Exhaust gases are routed away from the turbos with a bespoke titanium exhaust system that weighs 7 kilograms less than the one in the Turbo S. And it alleviates back pressure using a controlled flap system. Whoa, nothing like a controlled flap system, eh? The GT2 RS also features an automated water cooling system that kicks in when the engine reaches high temperatures, and it ensures optimal performance in all conditions. When temperatures exceed 122 degrees, or the driver applies more than 90% of the throttle, distilled water is dispensed from a 5-litre tank into the intercooler. Just what you need, another fluid tank to have to remember to top up. It feels just short of a full-on race car in here, and as you can see, you've got lightweight door panels with fabric door pulls to save vital grams. You can also specify to delete the aircon system, but in truth, you'd be mad to do so. The PDK gearbox on the GT2 RS has been specifically calibrated for the character of the car and includes an intelligent shift program, ISP, to give more rapid upshifts and rev-matching downshifts. In the PDK Sport mode, all this is more visceral and at higher revs to cope with the vigorous track work. And don't forget that Porsche GT models have the paddle neutral feature, which means when both paddles are tugged, the car goes into neutral. Re-engaging the clutch in this way delivers far more aggressive gear changes, but gives complete control to the driver. The GT2 RS could be specified with 18-way sport seats, but honestly, who the hell would want to do that? No way, baby. The way to go are these exposed carbon fixed seats. And one of the unique features of this particular GT2 RS is that they are upholstered in tan leather, a sort of Cohiba cigar type colour, which when combined with the silver exterior and carbon fibre is fire! Also worth mentioning that we've got racing harnesses in here. The driver's seat, they're actually in the back and we're using the conventional seat belt, but you can see here on the passenger seat, they're fully displayed and they are super cool. For this type of car, for the character of the GT2 RS, you have to have the full harnesses. It just adds to the aggression. And of course also the fire extinguisher. Definitely not scary at all in a car as powerful as this with only rear-wheel drive. And of course you've got the full roll cage here in the back, which surprisingly doesn't inhibit the rear view. Now this is a 991.2 generation, so of course I am very familiar with it. It's just like my GT3 Touring, the only difference of course being that this has got the PDK gearbox instead of the full manual. But apart from that, it's all eerily similar, which means jumping into the GT2 RS is child's play. It's lovely and easy. Everything is exactly to hand and where I remember it. The front lifter button is of course here. You've got the PDK Sport mode. You have the stiffened suspension button here. You've got two buttons for turning off the stability control and the traction control. And of course, you've got that, what I always think is a completely unnecessary button, the sports exhaust. In my mind, there is no need to have a sport button. It should just always be on sport. The familiar infotainment system, which is very easy to use and touchscreen, backed up by physical buttons. Climate control, everything is in the center here. Very easy to use, tried and tested. You've got a decent glove box right there. Fantastic. This generation is peak Porsche cup holder. In the center console, we've got the familiar cubby hole. This one has the smoker's package, so you've got the little ashtray and the cigarette lighter there. Down to my right, you've got the controls for opening the front boot or frunk, and also for opening the rear engine cover. If anything, I think perhaps they've maybe gone a little bit overboard with this sort of tan leather in here. I think the seats look incredible. I think the steering wheel does, but I don't think you need quite as much of the trim in the brown. We could have toned that down a little bit, especially the sun visors, which I absolutely hate in this color. Ahead of me, I've got white dials on this model, so it's a restrained spec overall, so white dials for this and for also the chrono pack. And the tan leather trimmed steering wheel is, of course, the perfect size. Everything is physical, everything is easy to hand, it's incredibly ergonomic, tried and tested, perfect. It doesn't get better than this in terms of ease of use, get in and drivability. That's enough talking about the interior of this stripped out car. What you want to know and what I want to know is what it's like to drive and how does it compare to the GT3 Touring. Well, let's find out, shall we? Okay, let's start this beast up. Oh, yeah, okay, so immediately it's got a real earthy, deep, metallic, throaty throb to it, far more actually than the GT3 Touring. That is interesting. It's got this sort of extra resonance, this sort of metallic-y, bellowy resonance which you don't get with the Touring. I think because obviously we've got the full roll cage and everything's a bit stripped out, but it is a far more aggressive noise. So my main aim with this is to understand what it's like in terms of character compared to the GT3 Touring, and also, lest we forget viewers, I want to decide whether this exact car is the sort of car that I should own, because I have lusted after this car for a long time. It's finally come up for sale, and really, if I was going to get a GT2 RS, this is the one I would get. Now, I haven't had a PDK Porsche for a while, so I've forgotten how quickly it goes straight up through the gears. So you can be doing sort of 30 miles an hour in 7th, which I absolutely hate. So the first thing I'm going to do is just pop the gear lever over to the left, and that puts us in full manual. And then I'm going to use the pedals to control the car from now on, which is how I prefer it. I used to have a 997 Turbo S, same sort of control, same sort of PDK, and I always used to drive it manual. I just prefer the control of that full manual mode. There is nothing worse to me than that horrible kick down feeling that you get where you go for an overtake and it's in the auto mode and it sort of jumps down 2 or 3 gears, and then you have this big lurch and then you rock it forward, and it's all a bit ungainly and a bit ungentlemanly. So I like to be able to plant my foot down and know that it's going to stay in the gear that I want it to. Now, another thing, jumping straight out of the GT3 and into this, the steering on this is lighter, still very mechanical, still perfect. And if you've ever driven, for example, a Ferrari Pista, you get used to the steering on that, and then you get into a Porsche GT car, suddenly you realise just what good steering is. The steering on Porsche GT cars is perfect. You can see all the vents, all those extra things that they've added to make this car sucked to the ground, those scientific things that they've done there, magical Porsche electricery. That is perfect when you can see it distinguished against the bodywork. And I know you want to know what it's like to be sat in the cockpit of such a special car. It feels like a race car. It's got all the demeanour and noise and boominess and acoustics of a race car. It's very clangy, it's very metallic. It feels great having the roll cage because it makes it feel purposeful, makes you feel like you're in something special, but yet you've still got some of the luxuries in the front. It's not as stripped out as it could be. That wing, enormous, does have genuine downforce benefits, and it takes up about 15% of the rear view. It's not too bad. You could get a police car hidden behind you in there, but it's not really that intrusive, and the roll cage sort of splits up around it, so you don't get that in the way either. I can see the two engine vents sitting proud of the lid behind me, and of course, looking forward on the wings, I can see those really cool carbon vents, those louvres, just like you get in an MSO McLaren. Everywhere you look in this car, it's an event. Now I've got lots of grumbles and pings and snarls coming at me from the engine. It feels substantially more mechanical and guttural than even the GT3, and I thought that was a pretty live sounding fizzy engine, but this one's got some additional menace behind it. Twin turbocharged, 700 brake horsepower, so it's got 200 brake horsepower more than the GT3 Touring, and there's this sense of deep foreboding that there's something quite terrifying going to happen if I plant my right foot, which I like. I like the fact that this has a bit of a reputation for being an absolute bonkers machine, and it's giving me all the signs and all of the senses of being something that I need to treat with respect. Which of course, because it's not my car, though it might be soon, I'm going to do that. I'm going to treat it with respect. I feel hemmed in, I feel cosseted, and I feel ready to unleash some serious power on the roads. But remember, this is two-wheel drive, not four-wheel drive, so you have to have a modicum of restraint. Oh, yeah, I mean, listen to that. You sort of like, just on slight idle and then a little bit of pressure, and you get a real roar. Can you hear that? It's a real sort of drone, a very heavy mechanical drone. It feels like I'm in the back of a Lancaster bomber. Oh yeah, I mean that will get very, very tiresome on long journeys. Oh, it's a noisy thing, this. I'm getting a heck of a lot of oral stimulation at the moment. Not that kind, dirty mind. There was a time when these cars shot up to about £500,000, and I remember Romans trying to get me into one at that point. I think it was like £525,000 at the time. I didn't jump then, and I've kind of been waiting for them to come down a bit, and they have come down, but they seem to have now stabilised at that sort of mid £300,000 mark. This car has only done 1,700 miles, so it's in perfect condition. It's hardly driven. Okay, who fancies some GT2 RS beans? I'm not sure I can cope with this. Are you ready? Here we go then. Second gear. Yeah. I'm a little bit scared because, of course, rear-wheel drive only. You've got a lot of rubber back there, so the grip should be good. It's a dry day, but my God, the way that this thing piles on the speed is quite terrifying. The PDK seduces you because it makes things so easy. You just bang, bang, bang through the gears. Way, way more powerful than the GT3 Touring straight away. GT3 Touring, if you catch it in the wrong sort of part of the red band, can actually feel a little bit wheezy. Takes a bit of time for it to build up. This does not take any time to build up. The power appears to be instantaneous. It is a monster, this thing. It's a monster. What's going on here? We're going to go for an overtake? I think we should. Let's go. Ready? brakes as well. This has got ceramics. My GT3 is obviously on steel. They give you a lot of confidence. There's serious stopping power going on here. But it's just so addictive to just fly up and down the gears and just ring out the revs, every single one of them. It feels a little bit stiffer than the GT3. It can get a bit bouncy over some rough tarmac, I will say that. The top end noise is far more of a whooshing rush with a constant roar, whereas the GT3's got a little bit more snarl to it, I would say. So GT3 at the top end sounds a little bit better than this, but that's because there's just so much induction, whoosh and roar coming from this engine. This is just that rocket ship, that surging rocket ship, whereas the GT3 is still a little bit more of a nimble fighter.
5 minutes later.
Oh my god! It's just a surge, it's just a constant surge. Oh god, and just like that, you're at the horizon. This is one fast machine, but at the same time it feels sucked to the road. I can't even imagine what this must be like on track. I think it would be like the 675 LT, the McLaren, in full downforce mode. It really sucks to the track, and I think this is going to be the same sort of thing. Oh, this road is too small. This road is too small for that. Goodness me. So what do I like about the GT2 RS? I like the looks. I like how aggressive it is. I love all the carbon stuff, just how menacing it is. I love the ridiculous amount of power and the way it puts it down. The steering is perfect. The noise, how mechanical, how disgustingly mechanical it is. I love that. I love the fact that obviously it's kind of the ultimate 991.2 911. It's like, for me, the real peak, the big daddy of that range. I love the gearbox, how incredibly smooth it is and capable. I love the brakes. I mean, mechanically, dynamically, this is just about perfect. I mean, there's not really anything that you could say is not absolutely fantastic. What do I not like? Well, it's a little bit crashy at low speeds on bumps. And it's quite expensive. £340,000 is a lot of money for a 911, even a 911 as good as this, but my god, when you've driven one of these, you can see what it can do. Actually, is that a lot of money? Is this car only going to go one way? I think it might. With all the electrical interventions and all the extra legislation that's hitting Porsche in the future, including obviously hybridization and all sorts of restrictions, don't you just want the last of the line where you could basically do anything and not be tracked? This is that car. This is a wonderful, wonderful machine. I love it. I love it. I sort of knew I would love it, and I definitely do. And that's going to make it very, very difficult to justify not getting one. Do you want to do long journeys in it? Definitely not. But is it the ultimate modern expression of a 911? God, I really think it is. In fact, the only reason I don't own this car right now is that there's another car coming which is even more special than this and even more expensive. And on that bombshell, it's back to the studio. Well, here we are then, back at CarGuys HQ, and what have we learnt about the 911 GT2 RS? Well, we've learnt that I absolutely love it, and I would definitely have one in a heartbeat if I had the spare cash at the moment. We've learnt that it's an incredibly capable machine, probably the finest modern 911. Every part of it is special and incredible, and yeah, I definitely want one of these. So at some point in the future, there will be one of these in the CarGuys garage. How does it compare to the GT3 Touring? Well, it's more aggressive, faster, feels more special. It's more of an event. It is an epic road and track weapon, and it probably surpasses the GT3 Touring in just about every way except stealth and anonymity, which I have to say I do like about the GT3 Touring. Thanks for watching this episode on the Porsche 911 991.2 GT2 RS. Surely the greatest modern 911 of them all. If you like what we're doing on the Car Guys, please subscribe, leave comments and likes. There'll be another episode, hopefully, next week.